Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Table enabled. Starting a new week, Siman Kuvav 106, Hilchos Tefillah. It's a short one. Mihei Mapturim Mitfillah Shtei Seifim. Who are the people that are exempt from davening? We talked about Kriya Shema. Some people are exempt from the Mitzvah of Kriya Shema. Who's exempt from davening? So there's only two halachas. Aleph Kol Pturim Kriya Shema, Pturim Mitfillah. It was a long siman by Kriya Shema. So just look back over there. Anyone who's pater in Kriya Shema is generally pater in Tefillah. Generally, the halachas are interwoven. However, when it comes to Kriya Shema, if you're carrying a dead person out to escort him to burial or to hold on to the coffin while it's brought to its burial, so if you're needed to hold on to it, you can't concentrate on Kriya Shema. You're pater from Kriya Shema and from Tefillah. However, if you're not needed, so Kriya Shema you can say because it only takes 2 seconds to say the first part of Kriya Shema is the Oraisa. However, Shemona Esrei needs more time. You need to do it Amida. You're supposed to do it standing up, preferably their feet together. And it takes at least 2 or 3 minutes. So you don't have the time for that because they'll bury him. And they're going to come for the Nichum, the consolation of the mourners. So you don't have time to that. So once you're involved in the whole burial process, you're exempt from Tefillah, even though you'd be Chayav in Kriya Shema. V'noshim v'avodim, another distinction, women and slaves. Because we said Mrs. Kriya Shema is Mrs. Shazman Grama, right? V'shachvelav kumecha, supposed to do it in the morning and night, a specific time for Kriya Shema. Therefore, it's Mrs. Shazman Grama. Noshim are exempt, and avodim, the Gemara says, are hukish le noshim. La, the Gemara says Xer Shava. So avodim, even they're men, slaves, they're also pater for Kriya Shema. However, they're chayiv in tefillah. Tefillah doesn't have a set time. Now, there's a machlokas, famous machlokas, the Rambam and the Ramban about the mitzvah of tefillah. The Rambam says the mitzvah of tefillah is d'oraisa. The Gemara says in Tainus, Ezahi avoda shebalev, right? It says in Parshas Kriya Shema, la'avda b'chol levavchem. What's considered avoda shebalev? That's tefillah, which seems to be the Torah's darshaning, a mitzvah min d'oraisa of tefillah. However, the basic mitzvah applies at all times, once a day, according to the Mishnah Torah. Once a day after daven, even a small bakasha, not the rubric of the set Shmona Esrei, the words of the Shmona Esrei. You say something to God, you already fill the mitzvah of tefillah, maybe even moda'ani. In the morning, talking with God is kind of the mitzvah of tefillah. So there's no set time for doing it. Once a day, any time, there's not really time bound. So that's a mitzvah d'oraisa, even though they're abana, technically they're masakin zmanim for tefillah, but the basic mitzvah is mitzvah she'en hazman grama. So nashim are pturos. However, according to the Ramban says that the mitzvah of tefillah d'oraisa only applies based in a difficult time, when you're fighting a war, or you're very sick, or you're going through very difficult, dire straits. So then you're at mitzvah d'oraisa. Otherwise, it's the Ramban. According to the Ramban, so it's only the Ramban. So we know they're masakin, the mitzvah d'Rabbanan, masakin yodched brachos. So the reason, and that has shachas, mincha, and arvis have specific times. So according to that, it's a mitzvah shazman grama, nashim should be pturos. So according to the Ramban, he says, no, the Ramban says certain mitzvos, even though they are zman grama, because it says in the Mishnah, in Masachas brachos, that women are chayiv in tefillah. The rachamin, the Gemara says. So according to the Ramban's understanding, so they would be chayav whole tefillah bakashas ra'achmim, like the Gemara says, ra'achmim they need it, even though it's mitzvah hazman grama, it is time dependent. Nonetheless, this they were masak and they're chayav. V'chein Icar, the Mishnah writes, this is the Icar opinion. V'chein das rova poskim. V'chein yachriya b'sefer shagas aryeh. Alkein yishliz har la hazir l'nashin yispalish mon esrei. This is the basis for most women nowadays. They want to damage mon esrei, and this is the main psak of the Mishnah Berurah. They should be davening Shmona Esrei. However, the Mishnah Berurah does say that Ma'ariv, which is for us, is that men is only a Roshos, women don't have to daven. That Musaf is actually a machlokas. The Mishnah Berurah brings down whether they have to or not. But according to the Ramban, it would not be like the words of Shulchan Aruch. The reason that they're chayiv is not because it's a mitzvah shelo hazman grama. It's because it's a mitzvah aseh hazman grama, but midrabanan they're chayiv because rachamim, they need to have rachamim. Another distinction in Kriya Shema, well, there's not really a distinction. You have to teach Ktanim, once they reach the age where they understand what the idea of tefillah, who they're davening to, then you have to mechanich them. It should be davening Shemona Esrei also. To daven, he says, Mishabur Erev Aboker, sounds like only in the morning at night. But this would apply to Kriya Shema also. Kriya Shema, actually, the Gemara says Kriya Shema, you're not chayiv. Sorry, there's another difference. Kriya Shema, you're not chayiv in the Mitzvah of Chinuch, because the Gemara says, or the Rishonim say, that the father's not around to mechanech his child. Beis. So those are the three differences in Tefillah and Kriya Shema. Beis. Mishat Rasom Nasa going Rishon Mar Yachai v'Chaverov Mafsik Likros Kriya Shema v'Lo Tefillah. If you're called Torasum Nasa, now in Eretz Yisrael, officially, it's branded into the laws of the state that people who learn Torah full time are called Torasum Nasa. Therefore, they're exempt from serving the army. The Gemara says there's really only Torasum Nasa used to be, or Shem Bayachai, people that really, they would bury themselves in the sand for 13 years and they wouldn't stop learning. I don't think most people would fall into that. Even the most frum and starkest guys in the yeshiva who are not taking any breaks for coffee or bein hastarim would not totally be learning every second that they're awake during the day. We don't paskin that it's called Torah Naso anymore. Mafsik l'Kriya Shema. So if you're one, it used to be, or Shema Yerchai, Torah Naso, so you stop for Kriya Shema, which is Doraisa, but not for Tefillah. Nowadays we don't have Torah Naso, the Shulchan Aruch paskins. So therefore, even if you're learning all the time, you have to daven, say Kriya Shema, and stop for davening. Haga, the Ramah says, however, if you're teaching other people, like the Gemara Megillah says, there's Talmud Torah Rabbim, where there's multiple people, involved in the learning, like this video, where multiple people are going to be listening to this. Talmud Torah Rabbim. I definitely don't have to daven Shemona Esrei. However, the first pasuk of Kriya Shema, you do have to be posek. This is really a Gemara. Like when Baruch says that Rebbe, he stopped for Kriya Shema. He wouldn't stop for Tefillah when he was teaching his Talmidim. Right? If the shir is going to be over before the end of Zman Tefillah or Zman Kriya Shema, so then you continue with your shir, and then when the shir is finished, then you'll have time to say Kriya Shema or Tefillah. What's very interesting about this is that this is how we paskin actually. If you're a Rebbe, you're teaching Talmidim, or it used to be a Torah Naso, you don't stop for Tefillah, even though you're going to miss Tefillah, right? That's what we're talking about. If you're going to miss Tefillah, you're not going to daven Shemona Esrei. How can it be? The Gemara says, and we paskin like that, the Gemara says, Torah l'chud, v'Tefillah l'chud, the Gemara in Shabbos and Daf Yud. So, if they're independent things, how could it be that, okay, maybe Rosh Hashanah doesn't apply anymore, but if you're a Rebbe and you're teaching Talmidim and your shir goes for 4 hours and you're not going to have time to daven Tefillah b'zmana, technically you could forego davening for the day. Does that make any sense? How could it be that, don't we say Tefillah l'chud, Torah l'chud, Tefillah l'chud, you should stop in the middle of the shir? If you want an answer to that question, stay tuned for Ian to lean on coming up next.